This is the Maine Report, a public affairs program produced by the New England School of Communications.
Welcome to the Maine Report, a public affairs program produced by the students and faculty of the New England School of Communications. You can watch our program live and in rebroadcast online at nescom.tv and catch it on cable Channel 5 on the Hudson University campus. I'm Kristen Spellman. Today we're focusing on gangs moving into Maine, particularly if they are seen as an issue in this state. It's been an ongoing and heated discussion over the past few years since the FBI released the 2011 Gang Threat Assessment for the state of Maine.
Over the past 3 years, gangs moving into Maine has become a heated topic of discussion. According to the FBI's 2011 Gang Threat Assessment, Maine has up to 4,000 gang members, all congregated in the southern part of the state. These numbers were a huge jump from the FBI's 2009 version of the report, which stated there were only 1,000 gang members in the Portland and Lewiston areas. Maine is said to draw gang members because there is a lucrative drug market. President of the Maine Gang Task Force, Eric Berry, said that Maine is particularly attractive to gangs because currently there is very little competition. Berry has also stated that drug prices here are much higher than the rest of New England, so gang members can get a higher profit for the same product. Back in 2010, 24 people arrested by immigration officers had reported ties to big-name national gangs with track records for brutality. Those arrested in the high-profile raids included members of the Asian Boys and two factions of the Bloods. Berry told the Bangor Daily News that virtually every gang you can think of is in the state right now. After the raid, Westbrook Police Chief Bill Baker said the affiliates of the Asian Boys gang are definitely in his city. Baker stated that gang members have been using safe houses in Westbrook, but their criminal activities have been centered primarily in Portland and Massachusetts. As a reaction to the FBI's gang threat assessment back in 2011, Representative Amy Volk proposed a bill that would make it a felony for an adult to recruit a juvenile into a gang. Eventually, Volk herself agreed to kill the bill. She stated that she didn't think we were quite ready to deal with the issue yet, and that the bill was successful in getting people to talk about and consider the issue. Over the past 3 years, gangs moving into Maine has become a heated.
We're joined now here in the studio by Bangor Police Department's Community Relations Officer, Officer Jason McCambly. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to get right into it. What does the Bangor PD have as a definition of a gang?
We don't have a specific definition of a gang. I mean, we know what gangs are. Of active gangs in the state of Maine, really the only large ones are the outlaw motorcycle gangs, and there are clubs around the state, and occasionally there are issues with those gangs. As far as the Bloods, the Crips, MS-13, things like that, we're not seeing that in Maine right now. That's not to say that members of those groups have not been here. I'm sure that some of them or their associates have, because we do have crime in Maine. We have gun crime, we have drug problems, and those are really the big things in which they dabble because there's money to be made. So, you know, when you go fishing, you go where the fish are. Well, there are fish in Maine, so they come here to go fishing.
And what would you yourself define as a gang? Like, do you have your own opinion of what one might be?
My opinion doesn't matter. I'm here to express the opinions of the department, and it's what the FBI says is a gang, and we don't have a gang task force. We don't deal with gang violence. There's not really any organization in Maine. Some of the larger departments have intelligence units where they gather information, and again, a lot of it is specifically about the outlaw motorcycle gangs. If you go to someplace like Portland, where they're getting people who are known associates or affiliates or actually members of gangs from, say, Boston or New York City, and they do come up to Portland because, again, they're buying stolen guns, they're stealing things, they're dealing drugs, and then they're coming up here for a while and they're going back home. And we've had situations like that here in Bangor where somebody who was believed to be a gang member from a large city, Boston or New York, they come up here, they do whatever they're going to do here, and then they go back home.
Okay. Why do you think people are drawn to gangs in the first place? Like, what makes them want to join a gang?
Everybody wants to be part of the group. Nobody wants to be the outsider, the lonely person. You're included. It's a family of sorts, and in some places it is. And there was a very interesting book written by a former ATF agent, and in it he describes a point when in real life he was working undercover and had infiltrated an outlaw motorcycle gang, and somebody in his family had died in real life, and he told the agency where he worked that, hey, this happened. Oh, sorry to hear that. See you when you get back. When he went to the gang clubhouse and said, I got to go back to wherever home is, this family member died. There was this huge outpouring of support. People gave him hugs. Do you need anything? Can we do anything for you? Do you need any money? And he said it was amazing the support he got from this outlaw group versus this federal agency for which he worked, and the huge difference. And so he was just kind of shocked by that.
And where there is a slight issue in Portland, do you think there are ways to prevent any of those gang members from coming even more north to Bangor?
We're not going to prevent it. They're going to come, and we're going to have to deal with it when it gets here. And we've seen some people come through that probably have affiliations with some of these gangs, or at least say they do. As far as coming here and planting here, there's just not enough business for them right now. And there are already people that are involved in the trades in which they find themselves involved, and it's just not, it's a business trying to expand into a new market. Well, what's the competition like? Is that something we want to put up with? Is it worth putting our resources into that competition, or is it not? At this point, it isn't for them. There's not enough money here to be made. The money that is to be made is there to be taken up by other people and other organizations.
Okay. A couple of years ago, there was an incident, a street fight between Zachary Carr and John Searles, and both the media were debating whether or not it should be considered a gang fight. What did you think of that whole incident?
As far as the police department is concerned,
yeah,
it's a gang fight in that there were two separate groups.
okay,
That's it. And two immature males got into a fight over something really, really stupid. One of them did something that he can never, ever take back. And one life is gone, the other is ruined. And yeah, those are immature males doing something very immature. That was not a gang activity.
Why would John Searles, the man who was shot, why would his grandmother classify that as a gang fight? Like, that's what it stated in the paper.
I don't know. You'd have to ask her.
So one of Searles' friends, Zach Ladd, he identified himself in that group of skateboarders that hang out down at the skate park. And he said that Zach Carr's group of friends would dress in red, like imitate the Bloods, essentially. And that eventually their whole group took on the mentality of a gang. Would you say that's a thing? Like, are they capable of taking the mentality of a gang without necessarily becoming one?
If that group went to a large city and attempted to identify themselves as the Bloods or the Crips,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't come back. There are not a lot of Caucasians in those groups. These are kids who are wannabes, who are watching way too much MTV, and hey, these people are afraid of them. We want people to be afraid of us. This is how we're going to do it. And it obviously did not work out for them.
How can a police department distinguish gang activity from like the actual gangs? Like you said, you only classify them as like a gang fight because it was two different groups. How would that differ?
We didn't classify it as a gang
or
fight.
the media.
It's the media and the public say it was gangs. It's just two different groups. And no matter what it is, there are sides to it. They're not gangs per se, as far as the legal definition of gangs based on the FBI statistics.
Okay. What would stop them from, what would stop a full-fledged gang from coming to Maine?
There's no opportunity for them here. The market is not here for them to come. The membership is not here. There's still a bit of a pride in being a Mainer,
Mm-hmm.
and the distaste for somebody who's from away. So it's very difficult for those people to create inroads here. And yeah, even when they come up and start dealing drugs and doing illegal things, they're still the outsider, even though people are making money for a little while until they get caught and everybody goes to jail. It's not financially feasible for them to come here. There's no money in it.
Even with the drug market, no?
Not for as much money as they're making. And everybody wants to make money off the drug trade, and the drug trade is really a big pyramid scheme. If you're at the bottom, you see a lot of money, you don't get to keep it. The people at the top get to keep it, the people at the top don't get in trouble. It's everybody down at the bottom.
Very true. You head the neighborhood watch for the West Side.
I am the police liaison for the neighborhood watch groups in Maine. It is headed by a woman named Lisa Prescott.
Okay. And what is your responsibilities with that? How do you interact with the people of the West Side?
When the group got together and said we would like to form a watch group, I helped them get it organized formally. And I just act as the go-between for that group and the police department. They have issues that are police-related or otherwise related to the city. I'll help them out any way I can. And they are really a very independent group, and they're concerned about their area of town and, you know, the wide variety of things that go on there. It really formed because of a noisy neighbor. And this person was having parties at all hours. They didn't really work. Some of the people with whom they hung out were known to us in the police department, and the neighbors got together and just had enough of it. And got together and essentially said, we're not going to put up with this in our neighborhood. That person moved, and problems in that neighborhood have really tapered off. And people's behavior changes, and they know they're being watched. Well, this neighborhood watch group is fantastic. If you come into this neighborhood, and if we don't know you, we're either going to approach you and find out who you are you here for a good reason? If you're not here for a good reason, we're going to call the police, and the police are going to come. And it has really helped. It hasn't solved every problem there. The issues that they were having have diminished dramatically, and has been a great success story for that area of town, and has since expanded to the east side, and now we're working on putting a neighborhood watch group together in Cape Heart.
Great.
Yeah.
What was your responsibility with the group? Like, do you do trainings or anything with them?
Advice mostly. There's a national neighborhood watch organization, and you can become part of that, so you can participate in things like National Night Out, where people come to get together and just show that this is our neighborhood, we're good people, you want to keep it as a good neighborhood, and if you're not going to come to this neighborhood and be a good neighbor, then you don't belong here. You can go somewhere else. And it just really brought the people together, and that's the important part of it. At the beginning of it, the woman that heads it up, I was having a conversation with her one time, and she talked about how after living in that neighborhood for about 2 years, she knew the neighbor across the street. First name, she thought. 2, within a month of that group being formed, it was, hey, I can't talk right now. I'm taking so-and-so, the neighbor across the street, who they didn't know. I'm about to go to the airport. I'm going to watch their house and make sure everything's okay, and they do the same for their house. And they know their kids, they know what cars belong in the driveway, and they know if something is out of place, and that's absolutely wonderful. And if you've got that sense of pride in your neighborhood and in your neighbors, it's going to make it a better place.
That would definitely help. Does that help cut down on like suspicious activity that goes on in the area?
Yeah, and they call, and one of the big gripes they had, and it was a legitimate gripe, when somebody calls the police department, there is a template of questions that have to be asked of the person calling. And we really like it when people answer those questions. Well, what people don't understand sometimes is, while one person is on the phone asking you these questions, there's 1 or 2 other people in that room making sure that if you need a police, if you need fire, if you need an ambulance, they're on their way. And people are thinking that nothing's being done while they're on the phone. And in this instance, there was literally a fight going on in the street. And they think, I'm on the phone and you're not getting the cops here. What in the world is going on? To now, they call, they give a first name. I'm a member of West Side Watch. Okay, great. That's all we need. And the troops are on their way. And part of my responsibility is, if we need to go back and talk to that person as a witness, I've got to go find them. And I've got a list of everybody in the group, and I've got their contact information, and that's not shared publicly. It's just that if we need to find them, it's up to me to go and find them. And that has not happened yet, thankfully.
Well, that's good. So you've definitely made a lot of progress with making it a safer.
They have made a lot of progress in making their neighborhood a better place to be.
And developing a relationship with the
Yes.
Bangor PD. Very good. I've noticed around town that there has been graffiti. Can you talk a little about that?
Sure.
Like, what's the difference between graffiti and tagging?
There's no difference.
There's
It's
no
just
difference.
Different term. Taggers like to call it tagging because graffiti is a legal term, and it's illegal. There's been discussions of giving the graffiti artists a place to display their art instead of on private buildings. And there's a group that is formed within the Bangor community called Tag Your It. The name was thought up by Dennis Marble, who runs the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter. And it's just a great name, and there's people on it that come from far and wide. They're business leaders, community leaders, police departments represented, religious leaders. Last year, one of the synagogues in town got spray painted with swastikas.
Yeah.
And this is just, again, a bunch of stupid kids being stupid kids. And they got caught, which was great, and they kept doing it and got in some serious trouble. Well, they were made to realize that, hey, it's not just some blank canvas for you to paint on. This is somebody's business, and it costs time and money to fix this problem, and it really interferes with their business. And when they've got to fix it, what it takes for them to get it fixed, there are consequences to it. So what happens, we catch these kids, they're brought back as soon as possible, And instead of going to jail or being put on probation or something like that, they get to help clean it up and realize that there are consequences to their actions, and they're not good. And then they realize, they meet the people that own these businesses and own the property that they've defaced, and realize, oh my gosh, this really does affect somebody. It's not an anonymous source of vandalism anymore. And things have improved. They're not perfect. And it's just kind of a swift response team to get it cleaned up. The broken windows theory that was started in New York City many years ago, that if something's wrong, fix it immediately. And eventually, because they display that art for a reason, you cover it up, well, there goes your art. And the idea of giving them an outlet where they can publicly display their talents, and some of them are extremely talented artists. It was floated by one of the religious members who had worked in Los Angeles. And they gave them a blank wall, these people that were tagging their graffiti artists, and allowed them to police themselves. And here are the rules, pretty simple. Couldn't be obscene, couldn't be vulgar, nothing offensive, and you can display it. If there's something that breaks these rules, you're done. So they policed themselves, and they discovered that if somebody went in there, put something that broke the rules, the majority of the group fixed it, and then basically made it very clear to the person that did it, don't do that again. And it was a very successful program, and it's something that has been talked about here. If it's going to come to fruition anytime soon, I'm not certain. I would like to see it happen. One of the questions is, where would it be allowed to happen? Because, is it, we're going to put it on somebody's private property, or donate that? Is it going to be perhaps a portable wall that the city puts up? And then where would it go, and what are the rules going to be?
Okay. I've noticed, just in my own observation, there's the symbol with 3 circles, and then it comes down and connects almost like a flower.
Like a pawn sign?
Yeah. Like, why are those, do you have any idea why those are all around?
It's
like,
just
I've
a
seen them
popular
on
symbol.
dumpsters and like down by the river, just.
The idea was brought up that it was somebody marking their drug territory.
Mm-hmm.
It's just become a popular symbol, and it's been repeated all over the place. I've seen it outside of Bangor.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's just, hey, let's put this up. It's quick, it's easy. You can get it put up on a mailbox real quick before the cop car drives by again.
It's just a random.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the FBI in 2011, as you know, released the gang threat assessment and said that there were more than 4,000 gang members or associates within the Maine border. Do you agree with that? Is that a reasonable thing?
Well, it depends on what you define by associates. What's an associate? Is it somebody
Just
that knows a gang member?
Just affiliated.
Or
with
is
them.
it somebody that, well, see, their definition of associate is really unclear.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, are you a neighbor of a gang member? Do you know a gang member? Have you ever done anything? And then you're relying on self-reporting. And that's not really that accurate. And somebody who says, oh yeah, I'm a gang member. One kid being dead, oh yeah, we're a gang. Yeah, not really. As far as real gang members that are a nationally recognized gang, yeah, there are some people here. And again, it's the outlaw motorcycle gangs. And the other street gangs, we're not seeing them yet. I'm not saying they're not going to come here at some point. I would think that probably as things expand, we might see them on a more frequent basis. As again, they've crept up into Portland in some areas and then retreated again. It's just, they're not here now.
How do we handle the motorcycle gangs just in Maine that have been appearing?
If they break the law, we enforce it. By and large, they're not doing anything illegal. In some cases, some of these gangs, they have fundraisers for various causes and give back to the community in some ways. As with any group organization, hey, you follow the rules, great. If you break the rules, it's our job to enforce it.
Okay. And there's over 800,000 affiliated gang members in the United States. Why is that number? It's been getting progressively higher. Why do you think that is?
You have to understand that part of their gang threat assessment includes prison gangs.
Mm-hmm.
The prison population is exploding. If you're going to survive in prison, you're going to have to join a gang. Those numbers are included in this report.
Okay.
I would say that is the vast majority of the growing gang members that they're referring to.
And Representative Amy Volk, a couple years ago, also, like after the whole assessment came out, she said that a lot of the recruitment does take place in Maine prisons, and that when they come out of, like when they get done serving their time, that they take part in the gang-related crimes. what is the what does the police department think about that? Like, is that a fair statement?
I don't know. I don't know where she's getting her information or her statistics. Yep, people join gangs in prison because it's a way to stay safe and survive. When they get out, the gang's still in prison. So there's really doesn't seem to be much point in remaining affiliated with that gang. Now, if you're going to get in trouble and go back in, yeah, you probably want to keep that affiliation up.
Yeah.
When you get out, you might meet some people that are in the same gang and you run around together and drink booze together and do something stupid again together. And, maybe that's where it is. I don't know.
Do you think it's an important thing to keep in mind that it is possible for gangs to move their way up here for some reason, even though you don't think the police department doesn't necessarily see why they would?
It's in the back. I see why they would. They'd come here to make money. Right now, there's not the money is not here to be made, and I don't think people need to be worried about it. The most important thing is if you see something that just seems odd or strange to you, call your local police department. And if it's not anything illegal, super, well, I'll know. If it is, then we know. And it's still, getting it through to people that you can call us for anything. If you live in Bangor and you're not really sure, I don't know if this is the police problem or not, you can call me at the police department. Just ask to speak, if you can remember my name, or ask to speak to the community relations officer. And hey, this is what happened. I'm not really sure if it's a problem where I need to call the police department. I'd be happy to go over it with you. And if there's an issue, then yeah, we'll take the steps necessary to make it a police issue. If it's something that you don't need to worry about, great. Then we've solved the problem.
Do you think, are there any programs that when, kids do get in trouble, some kids are more troubled than others, are there any programs that can help them get back on track and so that there isn't that chance that they would want to veer off into the more gang-like actions?
There are. My thought on that is, they want to belong to a group, and it really depends on what the family situation is. And you see so many people that grow up to be criminals, their home life is horrible, and they want to belong to a group. And to belong to a group, you got to act like the group. Well, if the group is committing crimes and you commit crimes and you get caught, it's a vicious cycle that you're going to find yourself trapped in. And after a couple of convictions, you think, well, this is really the way I'm going to make my living, or this is the way my life's going to be. And in some places, or in some cases, they just kind of devalue themselves. They don't aspire to anything better than that. And it really is unfortunate. As far as programs, yeah, there are some things out there that can help. The Shaw House comes to mind.
Yes.
They've got some great programs for some of the people that show up there, and they've got rules they have to abide by. And, here it is. In some cases, some of the people that go there are going to get away from really, really bad family situations. On occasion, there are kids that go there because mom and dad have these things called rules, and they don't want to follow them. Well, guess what? If you come here, there are rules. You have to follow them if you're going to fit in here. And they realize that, well, you know what? Maybe mom and dad aren't that bad. For a lot of them there, though, the home situations are terrible. And they go to this place or places like it, and they get some structure and some support, and that's all they need. And it really helps them grow, it helps them mature, and helps them become successful. And they try to get them educations, they try to get them jobs, and whatever medical, psychological help that they can afford for them, they get that for them too. And it's just, they have some great programs at the Shaw House, and it's a question of finding funding for these programs. You see government programs being cut left and right all the time, and we have the problem with Dorothea Dix and some of the other institutions where people with mental health issues aren't getting the help they need. And jail certainly is the answer, and unfortunately more of them are ending up there. So it's a question of where we're going to put the money. Are we going to build more jails and put these people in them, or are we going to try to fix the problem at the front end with some social programs that might prevent the problem at the back end? And transferring that money from back here to up here, it's going to be a big process, and somebody's going to have to take some bold steps, and chances are going to have to be taken, mistakes are going to be made, and a lot of people, the politicians control the money, sometimes don't want to take that chance. They want 100% guarantee. Well, unfortunately, we don't have that.
Do you think it's important for the kids to have structure so that they do stay out of trouble?
Absolutely.
Does it help for them to get involved in different activities to keep them focused?
You see some of the kids are getting in trouble, and they're spending a lot of time online. If your child has a Facebook account and your child has 6,254 friends, great. Name half of them. Your child doesn't have 6,254 friends.
Yeah.
Your kid has a couple of close friends. You should know who they are. If you're a parent, I think you need to be a parent. And we have a lot of parents who want to be friends, and they're having kids that are younger, and they think this is the way to get along with them. Kids need structure and support and discipline. I recall growing up, and the rules were horrible. I look back on it now and think, my parents really helped me make right decisions. I don't think I'd be where I am now if my parents hadn't helped me with that. And it was a luxury that I didn't realize I had. And I think it also comes down to a lot of parents are working jobs, so when the kids get home, mom and dad's not there, and you want to spend a little time with them, you want to get along, you don't want to get in some type of fight with them because their homework's not done, or mom or dad didn't come to my ball game or something like that. And it makes it difficult. I'm not sure where the happy medium is going to be met. As far as social networking, I feel that kids need to be supervised, and you need to see what is going on with them. You need to take an active interest in their lives and allow them to take an active interest in yours. Get to know your kids, spend some time with them. And again, the whole growing up thing, okay, where are you going? Who are you going to be with? Where are you going to go? What time are you going to be back? Some simple ground rules, and once kids get used to it, they're used to it. And it doesn't make you a bad parent, it doesn't make them a bad kid. It's just some rules and structure. Without rules and structure, it's going to fall apart.
I had that when I was growing up. Mom was always like, where are you going? Who are you going to be hanging out with? And I'm like, oh, it's like the same people every time, but she still wanted to know that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my brother now.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I would hope so. Are there any programs for parents if they are having issues with their kids, like to get that extra help, extra encouragement to be involved with their own kids?
There are some programs out there. I couldn't tell you what the names are. There are a lot of social services just within the city of Bangor that, again, if somebody wants to contact the police department, we'll help you get in touch with them. And I've got a list of numbers for things like that at the office that we can kind of steer you in the right direction so you can get the right help that you need. And again, everything, one might not be the right fit for somebody else.
Yeah.
And there are groups out there that will help you in any way they can to try to make things right with your family and keep you on the right track, keep your kids on the right track. And if it prevents somebody from going to jail a couple of years down the road, it's going to be worth it.
And getting involved at the wrong crowd type of a deal.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me. And that is all the time we have for this program. I want to thank Officer Jason McAnley for joining us. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, you can watch this in rebroadcast on cable channel 5 and on the Husson NESCOM campus and online at nescom.tv. This program is produced by the students and faculty of the New England School of Communications, and their names will follow. I'm Kristen Spellman. Thanks for being with us, and we'll look for you again next time.
That's very good.
Thank you.
You're good at this.